It's the movie version of the musical version of the movie version of the novel, The Color Purple. We're doing it all here at Breakfast All Day. Alonso, please describe to us this big, big musical which is coming out on Christmas Day.
It's time for you to see the world. There's gonna be some changes made. Put it on.
From Blitz Bazawule, who did a really great film that I think Ava DuVernay's company released to Netflix called The Burial of Kojo, that I recommend people go back and take a look at. This is the story of Celie, played as a child by Phylicia Mpasi, and as an adult by the legendary Fantasia Barrino, and her ability to survive poverty and abuse thanks to her sister Nettie, who's played by Halle Bailey and Sierra, and then also other women that she meets along the way, including the formidable Sophia, played by the great Danielle Brooks, and Shug Avery, played by the great Taraji P. Henson. Shug is, of course, the true love of Celie's awful husband, Mr., who is played quite powerfully here by Colman Domingo. So, you know the story. You know the story of The Color Purple at this point. Can they implement, songs and dances to make this thing work? And they do. This film moves along at a good clip. It never gets bogged down in musical numbers. They all feel very organic to the place where they are. I think it's really hard to have, regular workaday people suddenly burst out into dance without looking like a bunch of Koreans, that are dressed as convicts or whatever. But here, all the choreography is so great, and it feels like it grows out of who these people are and where they are. I don't think the Spielberg version is. This one is in a more coastal area of the South, so you get these really cool beach scenes. There's this big sort of spreading tree where several key scenes take place that reminded me a lot of Julie Dash's Daughters of the Dust. The Celie-Shug relationship is given much more play here than Steven Spielberg did back in 1985. This is just a one delight after another. The songs really land. They do what the best musical numbers are supposed to do, which is to basically enhance the characters and move the story along, and really, one song can replace pages of exposition and dialogue to tell you who somebody is and what they're about, and the songs here really do that. I freaking love this.
I was really impressed with it too. Blitz Bazawule also co-directed Black is King with Beyonce, which we reviewed here several years back. And so there's a really bold visual flair to his style, and a really muscular kind of sense of imagination as far as visuals and where the camera is. And the choreography is from Fatima Robinson, who also did Dreamgirls and
Renaissance.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, that's true. And we, of course, love that. And we're impressed by all the choreography with that. So, it's kind of all of a piece. But you're right. There's people in stores that all of a sudden burst into dance, or they're workers, or they're building a house. And it doesn't feel forced. Now we're going to burst into song and dance. There's
you're at Knott's Berry Farm,
Yeah, no, everyone is so good in this. And yeah, you mentioned Danielle Brooks, who damn near steals the entire thing. It's a very showy role. It's a very funny role, but then there's also a great deal of heartbreak, which she also plays very believably. It's interesting. How do you tell this story that we know so well in an inventive way? And they really do. I've never seen the actual musical, though. You said you saw the musical, right?
I did. Dave and I saw the touring production of the Broadway, I can't remember if it was the first or second. There have been a couple of rivals, but anyway, we saw Fantasia Barrino on stage doing this role, and she's incredible. And it was interesting to see the difference between, that thing where you're on stage, you got to play to the rear mezzanine versus, the intimacy of cinema. And I always think of the musical of The Producers movie being an example of oh, whoa, you guys are playing it way too big. The camera's right here. You could give me less. And she very, I think working with the director and just understanding how this stuff works, is very good about harnessing that energy that she has, but in a way that works in film as opposed to what works on stage. And like a lot of movie musicals, they move around some songs and maybe take some out. Celie's big I'm Here number is as effective, if not more so, in this movie version than it was on stage. So they do right by that property. They do right by the Alice Walker novel, and even by the Steven Spielberg movie, which is this sort of inescapable thing. Like you can't talk about a Color Purple adaptation without that figuring in the conversation. I looked this up. Nobody has ever remade a Steven Spielberg movie before.
Oh, because that's just a losing proposition right there.
Yes.
Like,
and you have to do it, and you have to do it in front of him. It's like Danielle Brooks is playing Sophia in front of Oprah, because Spielberg and Oprah Winfrey are both producers on this. So it's like, that's got to be a level of, but they both.
And she did it, and she's amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like Fantasia does a better job of emoting in song than she does through the dialogue. I don't know. I think she's a stronger singer as a performer than an actress. But maybe part of that too is like she's opposite Taraji P. Henson, people who are really, really veterans at this,
Yeah, I mean, it all worked for me. There was never a sense where I was kind of like, oh, I wish you were singing now. Like, to me, the whole performance worked. I think it's one of the best ones of the year. And I was really impressed with that. I mean, Dave's a super fan. I've been a fan of hers since the moment she started on American Idol.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that she was great. I think that the kind of handoff between Mpasi and her, for like from like, here's the character young, here's the character older, is seamless.
Yeah, there's some incredible transitions there for sure.
Yeah,
and they look. It's great casting because the girl looks so much like young Fantasia. Like it's perfect. Yeah, there's a lot of really inspired transitions here, though. I mean, and then the cinematographer is Dan Lawson, who shot The Shape of Water, shot all the John Wick movies,
right. So Nightmare Alley.
There's a lot of really inspired use of color and light. There's like a dream sequence musical number with some Art Deco flair to it that I said, oh wow, like audibly to no one when it came on, because it's incredibly lush and lavish and beautiful. And it's the kind of imagery we've seen in that kind of dance number so many times, but this felt fresh and new and just richly creamy beautiful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you're a fan of old school musicals, you will gasp at that, because they really it does have that sort of like Fred and Ginger at RKO kind of feel to it, but in like gorgeous color.
Yeah, and they do a lot with the tree. As you mentioned very effectively, they do a lot with like the image of a phonograph, which Celie had never seen before, and what that means to her in terms of her imagination.
Yes,
Halle Bailey is really lovely, and this Colman Domingo is terrifying in this.
Yes,
God, he's good.
He finds avenues of menace that even Danny Glover didn't hit. All of these performers have such huge shoes to fill.
Sure.
Whoopi Goldberg and Adolf Caesar, like these really iconic cast from the Spielberg version, and this new crew is doing it so well. Like David Alan Grier as Shug's dad is so great. I won't give it away, but I was shocked by who they got to play Old Mister. I thought that was a great casting touch.
Yes, there are. Yeah, and then there is. All right, I'm not going to say anything, but there was a cool tiny cameo early on.
Yes, that too.
And there's a musical callback from the original that I thought they handled in a very moving, inspired way. There's a thing when you had seen it and I had not, and I'm like, do they do this? And anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of like how in Wonka, when they managed to bring back like pure imagination.
It is just like that, right? They find a new avenue into a moment that is like, I hate to use the word iconic, but I think it is in a cinematic way. So
totally.
Anyway, I was really impressed by it too. And it's going to be enormously crowd pleasing for Christmas. There is some grown-up stuff in it, certainly. So as far as bringing young kids, it might be a tricky conversation to explain. There is some, very difficult to watch physical abuse in it, but then there's also a great deal of uplift and redemption. So it might be a good crowd-pleasing thing for older kids and up to see.
And the fact that they can work moments like that into a movie that is a musical is in itself, I think, a real dramatic challenge that they succeed at.
Yeah. What's your number?
I'm thinking 9. It's really incredible.
Okay. I will say 8.7.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm up there with you too. So The Color Purple is in theaters on Christmas Day. Go check it out.